At $200, a Super Nintendo setup costs twice as much as the old system. For the money, the company promises better pictures, sound, and adventure. Now you're playing with power, superpower. You're the king, I tell you! The king!
Only for Super NES.
Only on Super NES.
You're listening to the SNES podcast with your host, Soulblazer.
Hello, everybody. The Super NES podcast coming at you, episode number 288. This is a special episode where we have where it has myself, Greg, and my usual co-host Joe. We are again joined by returning guest host in front of the podcast, Doom. And I lost track of how many. I think this is your fifth appearance in the podcast, Doom, or something like that. Yeah. Because I remember you were here for. Well, obviously, we're covering Mega Man X3 in this episode because Doom is a big fan of the franchise. I know you were here the first two games. I know you were here for Activizer. And there was another game you were here. One of the Kirby games.
Ninja.
Yep.
And
also
Kirby's
Kirby.
Dream Land 3. So, yeah, that's six now?
Yep.
This will be number 6. Yep. So, but, yeah. And there's talk about another one down the road at some point. But anyway.
Secret of Mana, too.
The Banhammer.
Yes.
So, 7.
Yes. So, yeah, definitely a lot. But anyway, so this podcast, first of all, is delayed because of personal issues that were going on. They're going on in my life. So I apologize for the delay on this. We will hopefully keep to a more regular schedule later in this year. We even try to get ahead and record a podcast or two ahead, but we burned through that backlog pretty quickly. It's happened, unfortunately. So, but it did give everybody ample chance to play this game. So, let me go over the basics before we get into the actual gameplay discussion here. This is obviously the third game of the Mega Man X franchise. From Capcom. Very late Super NES release, not the last games. There were still some major games that came out of the system in 1996, but it came out in Japan December 1st, 1995. So definitely more toward the end of the Super NES lifespan, which is why, even though which is why that apparently both this version and a superior, well, quote-unquote superior 32-bit version of the game was being worked on simultaneously by different teams, which I'll cover. We'll talk about that in a moment. Also, this game got a pretty quick turnaround to the rest of the world. North America got the game just a month later in January '96, and Europe got the game in May of 1996. So, all in all, pretty good speed to get this released worldwide back, especially back in the 90s when such a thing was not, common. For various reasons, which I actually could not find an exact reason for this, except for the fact that Capcom was just something too busy at the time period. And much of the groaning of some of the people at Capcom who worked on the games. Most of the game work was farmed out to another company, Minakuchi Engineering, for Super NES release of the game. They previously had done most of the Game Boy and Mega Man games, all except for one of them. So I guess they were picked because they had some experience working on Mega Man games already, even though those were very different games. So, by the way, the Game Boy Mega Man games are on Switch, and I do think, I think they're good games, what they are. I definitely encourage anybody to check them out if you haven't already played them already, especially the last game. The last game in the series is a treat because the first game in the franchise in that series that's actually brand new as opposed to partly recycled material. But anyway, so not a lot of information is known on Minakuchi Engineering because they're one of those companies that kind of worked behind the scenes. That did a lot of the, porting and development work for major games in the arcade computer home markets, and really weren't given any credit for that. We can't even find exactly, not even know when they closed. They were formed in 1984. It seems like they shut down in 2002. So, the PlayStation and Saturn version of the game, however, were done in-house by Capcom themselves. They came out pretty soon after the Super NES version of the game. Japan got it in April 1996. Europe got it a little bit over a year later, March 1996. again, for reasons I couldn't exactly find, and I don't know if you've ever seen anything online about this Doom. The PlayStation version was planned for an American release, but it never happened for some reason. Like it was probably being announced with even prices and everything, but it never happened. So why that version never came out over here, I couldn't find exact reason why.
Yeah, I haven't seen anything about why that was either.
There was, however, a Windows version of that game available in Japan in 1997, in North America and Europe in 1988, and I checked it out on YouTube. Unlike the other last games, it's a pretty good port of the PlayStation version of the game. The only issues it really suffers from is a little bit of slowdown, and there's more frame stuttering when your character takes damage, for example. You definitely vanishes from the screen for a few seconds. But beyond that, it's a very good playable version of the game. So, it even got ported to mobile phones in Japan in 2010, which I think trying to play this game on the phone would kind of be a challenge for sure.
Yeah, no thanks.
Not my suggested way to play.
No. So, both versions of the game are available in collections. If you want the PlayStation or Saturn version of the game, that's a little bit harder to find. Because the collection of the game that was included on is an older collection. It was included in the Mega Man X collection, which came with the PS2 and GameCube in 2006, and that was the first time, by the way, that version of the game was available in North America. The Super NES version of the game, however, is included in the Mega Man X Legacy Collection, which was released 2018, and is still available on sale on Steam and modern computers modern consoles, and goes on sale on a regular basis. I think I snagged my copy for like $15 during a Steam sale last year. So it definitely is easy to find the Super NES version of the game. There also was, however, and I did not know this until I was doing research, port of the game planned for the 3DO as well, which would have been identical to the PlayStation Saturn version of the game. How far this got, nobody really knows. It was featured in a magazine in Japan with like screenshots like even a price announced. So it seems like it may have gotten to at least a playable build, but no version of that game's ever turned up. But yeah, it's not a surprise knowing why that didn't happen, because the game was planned for a late 1996 release, and by then the 3DO was pretty much dead. So
it's crazy they didn't release that for the most popular system of the time.
Would have been interesting to see how it runs. I think it was definitely the least powered of the other consoles for sure. But anyway, yeah. So we will be covering mostly Super NES version, but we will be talking about obviously the differences vis-a-vis the PlayStation and Saturn versions of the game, because I have played that version of the game. I know Joe has. I think you also have played that version at some point, Doom. So
I have it on the Mega Man X collection for PS2.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah, you actually don't have a PS2, a PS2 around and working out. I was like, reading about that. Yeah, because mine crapped out a long time ago.
Yeah, it's still chugging. It's like the disk drive is a little slow to open, but it's still working.
Well, anyway, now I've covered like all the setup and everything on this. So I'll get my voice to rest for a second. Doom, again, you know the best about the franchise. If you'd be kind enough to maybe talk about kind of the game itself in broad strokes, and the story also of the game, like we want to.
All right, so this game's story revolves around a Reploid scientist named Dr. Doppler. He comes up with a cure for the remaining Mavericks, and they all kind of get together in this utopia called Doppeltown, and it seems like it's going really well for a while, but then all of a sudden the cured Mavericks go Maverick again, and they start causing chaos, and at first it's not real clear like why they're doing that, and so the Maverick Hunters, X and Zero, and all their allies got to get on the case, and put an end to it. Doppler and his army as they become. So the gameplay is pretty similar to the first two. You've got an intro stage, and then you pick among the next 8 stages which order you want to do them in. You get the boss weapons from beating them, and each weapon is the weakness of a different boss. And then there's several stages at the end for when you go attack Dr. Doppler himself. And just like the first 2 games, there's 8 heart tanks that you can collect to increase your health capacity, 4 sub-tanks that you can collect to heal yourself. As you fill them up first by collecting health items, and then you can use it at a later time to heal yourself if you need it. And then there's also the 4 part upgrades, which, like in X2, they are a little bit different than they were in X1. In this game, the leg upgrade not only gives you an air dash, but also allows you to dash upward. In X2, you can only dash to the side. The body armor, it reduces damage as usual, but also when you get hit, it creates a force field that reduces any damage you take while it lasts even further. The helmet upgrade gives you, at the start of the level, it gives you a map and points out where any upgrades you haven't collected are, which is quite a bit better than the helmet upgrade in X2 was, where it only found stuff that was on the screen that you're currently on. And then the arm upgrade is kind of similar to the one in X2 in that it fires a double charge shot, but in this game the charge shots combine together to make a bigger charge shot, and then as usual you can use it to charge up your boss weapons that you've acquired. Now, there's more stuff to collect in this game than there was in previous games, aside from what I just mentioned. There's the ride armors are now collectible items in a manner of speaking, whereas in X1 and X2 you just kind of randomly found them in certain levels, and you could use them for a little while, and then you had to get off of them at some point. But here you collect them, and then there are these like stations set up in the levels where you stand on the station, and you can pick one of the ride armors to and then it'll give it to you, and you can use it for however long you're able to. So there's 4 of those, and then there's also enhancement chips for the different part upgrades, which give you like an additional effect to what they already give you. The leg chip allows you to dash twice in midair. The armor one makes a stronger force field. The helmet one allows you to gradually heal your health when you're standing still, and this includes your sub-tank, so it becomes real handy in the late game when you need to fill them back up rather than having to go farm for energy. And then the arm upgrade gives you it allows you to fire charge shots without having to actually charge it up. Like, you have this meter instead that depletes when you use it, so it's kind of like having an additional weapon. I guess that's pretty much it for the gameplay basics.
Yeah, it's pretty good coverage. Thank you for all that. Definitely appreciate it. There's also one other relatively big gameplay change, depending upon how much you use it or not. You are able to play as Zero the first time, in some situations. It's very limited.
Very limited, yeah.
Yes. You can't collect any power-ups or parts. You can't fight mid-stage or end-stage bosses, with one exception. And if you defeat it, he's dead. You never use him again. So
Forever.
yes.
Yep.
So that kind of disilludes a lot of players, myself included, from messing with him too much. But I do know there are some players who swear by him once you're like good at the game, because because of like because of like play style. The team also admitted that Zero was kind of like an afterthought. They definitely did more work in later games like X4 to definitely differentiate Zero and X more. Like the weapons being used, and that kind of stuff. But it is interesting to see, like the character here, like an extra character here. You definitely for sure. So, but anyway, I did play this a little bit back in the day, but I really didn't spend major time with this until the collection. In more recent times. Joe, what was your experience or history with this game that you had any before this?
Nothing.
No, okay. Okay.
Absolutely nothing.
Right.
So like this one got me good because I started the game. You're playing as X, and then this dude who's supposed to be your friend Mac ends up turning on you. And then you get to play as Zero, and I was like, oh, this is going to be awesome, because I've played some of the later games. So I'm like, cool, I get to play as Zero. Nah, not really.
Yeah, that must have been a disappointment if you played some of the later games.
Man, so yeah, I was really disappointed. And then, I mean, and it's just one of those things where I felt like the game pushes you not to use Zero so much to the point that some of the convoluted stuff that's in this game, there are a lot of things that I don't like about this game in particular versus the two previous. But, the fact that, if you do want to play as Zero and you come across these tanks and upgrades and whatnot, you have to pause the game. You got to switch to X, pick up those items, press start, swap back over. It really is convoluted and just kind of a pain. On top of that, a lot of this stuff is really cryptic. I understand in the other games, we had stuff that was hidden, and in all honesty, it was fun trying to find some of that stuff. Granted, I didn't go try to 100% it, but some of that stuff just was there. I felt like in this game, they really went above and beyond to make sure, you just kind of stumbled upon it if you just happen to do something right. One of the prime examples is, talking about the ride armor. There's some armor that, you can't acquire until you receive a specific weapon to be able to blow up a wall to get that armor. Come on, how are you supposed to know this stuff? It's definitely designed for multiple playthroughs, and I get that. It breeds replayability. But, there's one point, I said, the game encourages you not to use Zero. It puts so many barriers in front of you to just not use them, and most people don't. They just play with X. Which is pretty much what I ended up doing because I just got tired of all the switching. Mm-hmm. But there is one mini boss in the game that if you don't know that you can switch to Zero and fight that mini boss, you don't do it, and then you miss out on a really cool opportunity, unfortunately. Yeah. And I think a lot of players probably back then did miss that opportunity. Obviously, with the internet and walkthroughs and whatever else, we can figure this stuff out. It's not that big of a deal. But yeah, I was thinking, while I'm playing, I'm thinking of man, it's 1995, 96, and I'm playing this game, and maybe my neighbor has internet. I most certainly don't. And I wasn't getting the gaming magazines, so I'm completely lost. And that's evil. Zero is literally dead and gone. You lose them, you lose them. You could be being amazing in that game and then just hit a spike, done, gone. And that ruins everything. Not only, can you not get like pretty much the ultimate weapon, but also like you can't get the good ending of the game.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's those things that really bothered me. Other than that, I thought the bosses are cool here. I think they're a little easier than the previous games. I think when you have the right weapon and go up against the boss, they go down pretty easy. Whereas, obviously if you're just trying to buster it the entire time, yeah, there's going to be some difficulty there, but, that's only if you want to make it that difficult. Other than that, I mean, it's, I felt like the levels were kind of janky, like the way they were designed. Like they're designed to slow you down a bit, if that makes sense. Like it kind of pushes you towards that exploration idea. I felt like there was more mini bosses in this game than in the previous two games. Maybe I'm wrong, but I felt like I came across more mini bosses, which I felt, again, slowed down the action. And then, we're introduced to Bit and Byte, and I felt like they aren't that hard. Like, they were just there to pad the game. This is how I really felt. And like, they're supposed to be hidden bosses, but they're, like, easier to find than most of the things in the game. So, go figure. Like, man, what else? I'm trying to be somewhat, I don't want to be completely negative here, but like, you know what? There is a positive. So Vile returns, and we can actually beat him as X without Zero's help. And you know what? Like, that's character progression that I did not expect in a Mega Man game. So kudos on them for that, because that was unexpected. Like, I expected, here we are, we got Vile, and we're going to get the opportunity to play as Zero, a little more than what we have. But yeah, anyways. So, that's really the gist of the game for me. Like, I didn't have as much fun this time around as I did the first two games. Kaiser Sigma, by the way, was awesome to see, but obviously I had a hard time, even with a guide, to find all the secret stuff that I needed, and I was definitely underpowered and got my butt kicked. And I decided to adventure into the Sega Saturn port of this game. I guess it's not a port, but anyways, the Sega Saturn version of this game. So I didn't go head first into trying to beat the Super Nintendo version. That being said, Saturn version felt pretty much the same to me. I didn't really notice like any slowdown or anything like that. You get cool FMV videos to not only explain the story with Dr. Doppler and all that, which is really cool because you do get some like wordy cutscenes, which again, those wordy cutscenes on the Super Nintendo version, again, I feel just slows the pace down. But you also get really cool like FMV videos for when the Mavericks show up, so I can appreciate that. That was really cool. The CD soundtrack I thought was okay. I prefer the Pixel tunes more than I did the CD audio, and I have heard that is quite a point of contention, whether the CD quality is better or not. That is not my place to argue. I like it. It was good, but I prefer the Pixel version. But yeah, I mean, this, I think. And, I was optimistic going in thinking like, okay, this is the third type of gameplay. Like, they did really good with the second one. Like, we all agreed. Like, that was like, it took a masterpiece and made it even more of a masterpiece. And then this one, I don't know, I just felt like, not that it was phoned in, but like, there definitely wasn't as much effort put into this game as the previous two games, in my opinion. I could be wrong, but that's just my feeling.
Well, I happen to agree about 99% with what you just said. Which made my job on this super easy, but because I can just say, yeah, what he said. But yeah, well, Joe and I more often than not, I think, are on the same mind mode as far as like our opinions on games. But it's like with a few differences. I think you're generally right. I think this is by no means am I saying this is a bad game. It's not. It's still a very, very good game.
Right.
But I agree. I think that the first two games are just a little bit better. It's starting to go a little bit downhill. I thought with this one, because I think it is very difficult to find everything. It is very definitely frustrating. Frustrating points like gameplay. The graphics and music are highlights. We haven't talked about that yet. I'll do her like in a bit, but it's like they really push Super NES to its limits with this game because the game also uses some special chips, which is one of the reasons why it's so expensive. Which again we'll cover later on. But it's a masterpiece of what the system could do when finally push to its limits as well. So, and you're right. The PlayStation says that our versions really didn't add all that much, except for the F&B scenes, which are cool, but they're not needed. And like, yeah, it's like the music in both versions is good, but I think you're right. I think that I prefer the Super NES version of the game. Maybe I'm biased a little bit because Super NES is one of my favorite gaming systems, but I think that overall, it just sounds a bit better. Sounds a bit better overall than the 32-bit version of the game, and I think that opinion is pretty. That opinion is, I think, more common than not online from what I've seen, as far as the actual soundtrack of that game.
And to be honest, like I hope some people take my opinion, at least when it comes to like music, to gospel, because of the fact that like I grew up with the Genesis and the Gems sound, and that's like meowing cats and hissing, and it's not great. So like, the bar was low to begin with, but like since doing this podcast, I have learned so much about what pixel music could sound like, and it's been superb. And like I said, the first two games were amazing. So, to be able to sit there and say, the CD really didn't add anything is kind of sad in one hand, but also like it shows the power of that pixel music,
Yeah, definitely. Quick mention, since I forgot to say this before, and this is a good place to plug it in. The company, speaking of the Genesis, the company that actually made this game, the Super NES, which did most of the work for it, Media Engineering, they actually also did all the work on Wily Wars as well. So that's probably the reason why Capcom figured they were up to the challenge, doing this.
Which I mean, Wily Wars is actually really good, especially sound wise.
It is, yeah. It's a very good game.
It was a Sega Channel exclusive, so I mean,
for a long time, yes, you can get it now.
Very, very long time.
So, Doom, what's your history of this game like overall, and and what do you think overall? Like what we've said about this game. This game overall, and do you have anything that you want to like add to that?
So, I never owned this game on cart. I owned X1 and X2, but this one I only rented.
For a good reason, which we'll get to later on, but...
Back then, I was able to get to Kaiser Sigma. I could not beat him. I found it to be way harder than the first two games.
He is probably one of the hardest Mega Man bosses, period, of all time. It's not a very fun fight, I don't think.
Yeah, he takes up so much of the screen. You don't have much room to maneuver, and his hitbox is so tiny.
Oh, it's terrible, yeah.
So yeah, as a kid, I could not beat him. I came back to the game later as an adult. I got the game on Virtual Console for Wii U, and then I also have the game on, as I mentioned before, on the PS2 Mega Man X collection. So I've beaten it on both of those, and yeah, I can handle the game now, but it is a definitely a steeper difficulty curve there. As far as like, what do I think of the game? There's very little I can disagree with what you guys already said. it does. The fact that it was developed largely by an outside team, I do think shows in like the level design and the whole like prerequisites upon prerequisites to collect stuff. It's just like the first two games were so much more streamlined in that sense. Like I can snatch up those items like nothing, but here it's like you got to do research to figure out what you can get, what you need to get what, and it's just kind of mind-boggling at times. Graphics and sound, like the graphics are pretty much the same as like X2, including the CX4 chip. Both games had that.
The game is gorgeous though graphically. Like it's very
yes. There was like they really didn't need to do anything to improve it. It was great the way it was. So sound wise, I definitely prefer the Super Nintendo sound as well. It had like the soundtrack has a much harder edge to it on Super Nintendo, whereas like the CD quality, like they softened everything up, and I'm just not as into it. And like they even changed some of the sound effects, and like I want to hear the classic Mega Man X sound effects, not whatever they did to it in the CD version. But I do want to mention the composer is.
Yeah, just going to mention that, so go ahead.
Yeah, so it's Kinuyo Yamashita who composed the original Castlevania. So, like that's a hell of a pedigree there, because that has some like really iconic songs. And while I would say that X3's soundtrack is not at that level, it's still very good and definitely like can compete with the first two games in the series.
She also did all the music for Wily Wars as well, too.
Okay, I didn't know that.
Arrangements. Yeah, so.
And I'm just going to say it because I'm probably going to be the one who's the most controversial here. Like, for me, the music is either hit or miss. But I think all three of us would probably agree Gravity Beetle's song is by far the best track on the entire game. That track just slaps. And it's even good on the CD version, even though it's softer. It's still a fantastic track. But I don't know. Like I wasn't jiving with like a lot of the music. Like it was just kind of there. Like it's not bad because it's Mega Man. You know what I mean? Like it fits and it works. But like there wasn't really anything that really stood out to me.
Yeah, again, for me, it's like the gameplay.
Beetle.
Again, for me, like the same thing as the gameplay. It's very good music. It's very Mega Man inspired music. But again, the soundtrack just a little bit weaker, I think, overall compared to the first two games.
Yep, I agree.
Definitely some great music there as far as that goes. So the game definitely offered some replay value, and there's a reason for that because of the fact that this was a very expensive game even back in the day to buy. We will cover what the game goes for now these days, but Capcom had a lot of orders and a lot of interest in the game, this game, because obviously how well the first two games sold. But before 1995, everybody knew 16-bit systems like were on their way out. So they had lowered so across the board, they had lowered the production there for the shipping amounts of their 16-bit titles. From the start, they knew it was going to be a limited production run, and they charged more money for this game on average than the Super NES games because of that. So they can make a profit on. Also, the chips included in this were also special and I'm sure not cheap like the day. So I saw store listings to this game for easily $70, even $80 in some places, like when it was new. So that's like approaching like Genesis RPG prices as far as like how much the game sold for back then. So there's a very good reason.
They really tried to price us out of that genre. So because of that limited production run and how popular the game is, the game sells for pretty obscene prices on eBay nowadays. We always do eBay pricing at the end, so I'll save the actual result for then. But I'll just say
thank God the game's available. Like in a collection, because I can only imagine what the pricing would be if it wasn't too commonly available. So if you want to play this game, the collection is a very good collection. Speaking about collections, this might be a good segue. I said before we started recording that since we're not revisiting the franchise at this point, we can talk a little bit about the other games of the franchise too. Also to kind of wrap things up, because there were 5 other games of the franchise, 4 through 8, and there was talk of a 9th, as we mentioned before, but it never happened. Most people. The overall a lot of people debate very heavily as to the overall quality of which game's better than this game and whatnot. But I think 99.99% of people are going to agree that the first 3 games of the franchise are definitely far and away better than anything else that came after the fact. But I know, Doom, you have some pretty strong thoughts about X4. So if you want to use this as a segue to go into your talk, go right ahead.
Yeah, so I think X4 is better than X3. I feel like they took cues from the first 2 games and they went back to more the streamlined style, where it's just 8 heart tanks, 4 sub tanks, and 4 upgrades, and that's it. No ride armor to collect, no enhancement chips to collect. Which, by the way, I should have mentioned this earlier, but you can only get one of those enhancement chips. You get locked out of the other 3. But if you don't collect any of them, then you can get the hyper chip during the first Doppler level, which gives you the powers of all the enhancement chips. So it's another instance of kind of like what Joe was talking about with the Z-Saber earlier. How are you going to figure that out on your own? They're just kind of making it extra convoluted when they didn't really need to. And then one more thing I wanted to touch upon. I mentioned at the beginning the Buster upgrade, how it's 2 charge shots that combine into a bigger one. I do not like this upgrade. I think X2's was way better, because that one also had 2 charge shots, but they didn't combine. They traveled at the usual speed, whereas this one's very slow. And the one in X2, it's a regular charge shot and then also a stronger charge shot that ignores iframes, which is just amazing. This one, you don't really get any kind of a damage bonus from it. It's just a wide area of effect. That's the only benefit you really get. Okay, so I just wanted to get that out of my system before I moved on.
And you know what? That's something I forgot to bring up, is the fact that I found the special items that you pick up from the bosses in this game are pretty much null and void. They don't do a lot of damage compared to the previous games, and it just doesn't feel like you're getting an upgrade unless you're fighting, obviously, the boss that's the opposite of that.
It's not X1, where you've got the storm tornado, which you can just melt enemies with that thing.
Right.
No, that's. I think that opinion. I have seen that opinion. Online, online before. Before Doom, for sure. I still think X3. I still like X3 a bit better than X4, but I think it's a very good argument to make as far as X4 goes. Because I think X4, they also not only smoothed over some of the rough spots this game had, but they also made made Zero actually a very good, viable, playable option.
Yeah, and he's actually a lot of fun to play as in that game. Whereas in X3, he's not that different from X, and they discourage you from using him so much.
Yes, yeah. But anyway, so I mentioned the collections. There's 2 collections available out there. They got the first 4 X games are available. One collection, the later X4 games are in there. And another collection, and the running joke is that Capcom put all the good games in one collection and all the crappy games just like the other collection. But
they're not wrong.
It's the later games definitely are not as good as these 4. I don't. I think I'm sure Doom has very strong opinions about this, but I'm I think people debated whether 6 or 7 was the worst game in the series. But I think X8 is actually like a pretty decent game. I thought it kind of reminds me of the Suikoden franchise, to mention on here before. It's like 3 and 4 were not as good as 1 and 2, and then 5 turned things around. It was a great game, but because crappy games come out already at that point, nobody cared, and the game didn't sell very well. And I kind of feel X8 kind of suffered the same fate, because I think they did. Because X8 finally did turn around some of the decline that the franchise had been going through.
So I agree. X8 is a better game, but that being said, it's because it comes after the crap storm that was X6 and X7. Like, if those games had not been there and you just went like, oh, this is X6, then it's being compared to 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1, and it's just a mediocre game. But because it had that craptastic sandwich of 6 and 7 there, it made 8 that much sweeter when we got to it, but it's still mediocre in my opinion.
Yeah,
that's just me.
Yeah, I think 5 is actually a little bit better than 8. Maybe just just a hair, but because I hadn't quite really got. Unfortunately, Mega Man games often fall victim to the and I'm going to mention this here again in a moment. This could segue. The game was received very well by people reviewed very well in magazines. I'll mention scores here in a moment, but again, it was a very common complaint that the game was just too similar to what came before it. And again, the later Mega Man X games suffered from that even more so than these ones did. So, and it's a problem. I've heard of it, and it's a problem with franchises like this. How do you keep it fresh? Because it's a very difficult balance to achieve for sure. It's like how do you give fans more of what they want, but at the same time, mixing things up, such as bring something like new and fresh to the table.
You're right. I mean, look at Mega Man 9. Not 9, 11. There we go, 11.
Yeah.
When they released Mega Man 11, like, they were, like, going against that whole, everything's been the same, because 9 and 10 felt very much like the 8-bit. Mm-hmm. And people were like, well, we want something for modern consoles and want to feel like it's a modern console game. So they did the whole gravity mechanic thing, which... Yeah. That could be argued forever, but yeah, I mean, is it a good game? I'm sure it is. Was it good for me? Not so much.
I do like 11 a lot. I agree with you that the grab mechanic is kind of hit or miss, but I think overall the game was pretty good. I thought they did a good job, like trying to bring a more modern Mega Man game, like in the system. So, do I prefer 9 and 10? Yes, but nostalgia is pretty strong with those games anyway. But yeah, so 11 overall, I thought was pretty fun. But anyway, yeah. So I'm curious to see what the new Mega Man game's like. I think it's going to be out sometime next year. I think they said so. We'll see what happens with it. Do you have anything you want to add to this discussion we've been having about the rest of the franchise?
Like about 11 specifically, or what?
Or anything in general, just yeah. So,
I'll say I agree mostly with you about 11. I thought it was fun, but I totally see why maybe not everyone loved the double gear system. It takes some getting used to. I eventually came around to it, but. It is quite a bit different than anything in the previous games. And 9 and 10 are both great in my opinion.
I agree.
As far as the X series, I have not played any of them past 5. I did not like 5 at all. It made me not want to play any of the later ones. But I've seen people...
You were saved, my child.
but I've seen people play the later ones. So I know that, 6 is not great, and 7 is complete garbage, and 8 seems like it's a little bit better, but it's I don't know if I'm gonna just like play that one specifically and not play the others.
You should check 8 out though, I think, at least for a little bit, because the game, the beauty about these games is like it's all standalone pretty much. So like you can still check it out and not really like fear like missing anything.
Well, it is unfortunately not on my collection because it only goes up to X6, so I don't have access to it currently. But maybe someday.
I'm sure. Yep, I'm sure running given how old these games are, I'm sure the collection's like running a computer. So I'll keep an eye for you next time it goes on sale on Steam. But, So I guess that pretty much is going to wrap up most of our X3 discussion. It's like the Super NES definitely got a good trilogy of games here with this. It's like I think that. Even nowadays, this trilogy of games, the Super NES is still rated like among some of the best games on the system. It's not hard to see why, but I think overall, this is like a wonderful collection of games that especially 2 and 3, they really push the system like towards limits. So I think even though the franchise suffers, even though the franchise suffered from problems later on down the road, these are timeless games. Like the 8-bit graphics still look great today. I mean, the music still sounds great. The controls in Mega Man games have always been a highlight. The controls are always crisp and tight, I thought. So it's like deaths feel fair, not like you screaming about loose button pushes or sloppy physics or whatever. So it's like. The Proga games are the games that are programmed well, and they play, and these 3 games play very well. So, so definitely, I'm glad we finally got the chance to cover them, to cover the series for the podcast.
It's been fun being along for the ride for all of them.
Yeah. It's been a fun trek through this trilogy, and this one was really, I think, more the surprise than anything else, because at least I dabbled in 1 and 2, here and there. 3 I just never touched, and to experience it this time around, and then that tease of 0, that burned me, man. That burned me.
Yeah. I do understand, but I'll just mention real quick. We already. The Easter egg / secrets of this game we've already pretty much mentioned. Like Joe already mentioned, like the Z-Saber, and Doom mentioned the Super Golden Ship as far as it goes. There is one other there is one other code you could put on this game. I think this is probably like from programming and development. You're able to check with the code. You're able to check the status like the CX4 chip on the cards. Why anybody would do this, I don't know. Like I said, I think it's something the programmers used when testing, making the game, but it's there. So you can do that if you want to. So before I go, I'll talk about reviews. Yeah, like I said before, the reviews were positive across the board. Usually, Game Rankings gave it an aggregate score of 70%. Just to mention a few magazines back in the day, All Game gave it 4 out of 5. EGM gave it all these split scores on here because they always did a system about 7.5. It looks like averaged, like those reviewers. Famitsu also did split, score on this, but there's averages are like about 7 out of 10. Game Players 81 out of 100, Game Fan 87 out of 100, Game Pro 4 out of 5. So yeah, either strong average to good scores across the board. I think those scores sound pretty fair as far as over the range. And I mentioned before, the 32-bit version of the game did not review quite as well, unfortunately, for various reasons. But anyway, the main complaints being just kind of the repetitive, the gameplay here. There was one EGM reviewer, as a matter of fact, who really was very harsh about the game, saying they were just sick and tired of Mega Man, and they had dreams about the stupid the character showing up and forcing me to play more of the game. So
yeah, I read that one. Yeah.
To be fair, they also said the same thing about the Game Boy versions and the NES versions when they got into the later numbers. So yeah, I get it.
But yeah, final thought. Overall difficulty of the game, I thought Mega Man games by nature are difficult, and I think, like Joe mentioned, the game really artificially raised the difficulty level, the difficulty level because of all the hunting and backtracking and special weapons you got to find and do in certain spots of whatever. I think it was more. If it wasn't for all that, the game wouldn't be any more tough, except that they're tough compared to the previous games. Because I think, like Joe mentioned, I thought the bosses overall were not quite as bad in this game as the previous games, except the final boss. The final boss can go screw himself. But I think I think overall, the difficulty level was artificially raised. So it's like, and like you mentioned, the fact this game was developed by a team outside of Capcom makes sense. I didn't know this until I started research on this. But once I found that out, I'm like, okay, that makes a lot of sense. Then that fills in a gap because it's like. That kind of explains why this feels a little different from different like the previous games. There definitely was some opposition. Well, maybe opposition is too strong a word. From the Mega Man X people, Kenji Inafune was saying they're basically experiencing psychological turmoil over like outsiders to handle the game's development. So, is that fair? I don't know. You have to be the one to decide that yourself. But I understand why Capcom farmed the game out, but it is interesting. But it is interesting to see that the 13th version, which they developed in house themselves, is very little is different from that version of the game when they could have made fundamental changes if they want to. But all they really did was add in like anime cutscenes and CD quality music. And by the way, those anime cutscenes are so 90s. It's like really they're pretty horrible. Yeah. I mean, they're not as bad as like X4 cutscenes, I don't think, but they're pretty bad.
Well, they're not. They don't have like an English dub, really. Do they?
So, but
I highly recommend people check them out on YouTube. Just saying, they're at least worth a watch.
Yes, they are, and like I said, Joe, I like them being there because they're being there because they're cool, but like not really needed. But So anyway, Mega Man X3, overall pretty good game, but then like I said, the first two games were a very high bar to match up to. So I think a little bit of decay here is understandable, like all things considered. So before we wrap things up here with pricing and whatnot, do you guys have anything else you want to say about the game or anything else to kind of wrap things up here?
Just that I'm with you. I'm going to, obviously I want people to play the game. I think they should play the game. But in a pinch, I'm going to suggest 1 and 2 over this every single time.
Yeah, and I'm pretty sure Doom would agree with you.
So like 1 and 2, they're games that I've played so many times, and I will continue to just... they're games that I could pick up at any point, at any day, and just have a fun run through them. They're just like that magnetic and good in like every way you can think of, pretty much. And this game is like it's one I like to revisit every now and then. It's not like it doesn't have that same pull that X1 and X2 have, but it's still pretty good, and it's better than a lot of things that you could find on the system. That's for sure.
Yes, definitely. So, we would probably be remiss if we didn't mention YouTube times and speedruns a little bit on here, because Mega Man is definitely one of the most beloved franchises at speedrun for good reasons. So, typical playthroughs on YouTube of this game run about an hour to an hour and a half, depending upon your skill level, like whatnot. It looks like at least the former world record. I don't know if it's so I don't know if it is still the world record. From 6 months ago for the Super NES version of the game by Gio, who's an excellent speedrunner. I definitely watched some of his speedruns before in the past. 38 minutes, like 53 seconds, like this game. So, the PlayStation version of the game is actually a little bit faster to speedrun by about a minute or so, believe it or not. Which there's low time to account for, so that's definitely curious. So I don't know why there would be a difference, that much of a difference between the two versions of the game, but yeah, interesting. I expect the other way around. The Super NES version is actually a little bit faster of a speed. A little bit slower of a speed run here.
Yeah.
But yeah, if you haven't already, I do recommend watching the speedrun of this game, Joe, because Doom and I have already done so, and it's pretty nuts.
Yeah.
I'll definitely have to do that.
And it looks like that time is still the world record, the one from 6 months ago.
I'm not surprised. Gio's an amazing speedrunner, so
Yeah.
But anyway, so last but not least, we always finish up with eBay pricing it. Whoo boy. I don't have my notes anymore from past podcasts because, let's face it, this one's 400 podcasts deep at this point. But I know, Joe, you've only been here with me for about 3 years now, maybe, with the podcast.
Oh, it's more than that.
It's been
yeah.
Time is like all memories.
Yeah. We started just before COVID, I believe, or just after COVID. So it's been 6 years, if not a bit longer.
So yeah. So anyways,
yeah.
So my point is, I don't remember what the most expensive game is we've covered for in the podcast. I know this is not it, but it is up there for definitely one of the most expensive Super NES games, which is unfortunate because, like I said, this is a pretty good game. Like I said, Capcom was winding down 16-bit production at this point, and even though there was demand, they did not make enough copies to satisfy that demand. So as a result, the game sold for this. So the game was expensive when it was new, very expensive now. Doom probably already has an idea of what these prices go for these days.
Yeah, so I
Joe?
think I mentioned in one of the earlier episodes, at a retro game store that's near where I live, they have in a case all 3 of the Super Nintendo Mega Man X games, and you can see the price tags on them. X1, pretty reasonable. X2, okay, it's kind of expensive. X3, uh-oh.
Well, Joe, do you want to take it? So, do you want to take an educated guess as to maybe what this game goes for in cart?
Unless
you already know.
So I don't know exactly, but I know basically because of the chip and the lateness of the Super NES, and it is higher than the other 2 games. I would not be surprised if this was close to $300 to $400.
You're actually pretty accurate. Again, as a reminder on this podcast, we look at copies only available in North America, and these prices include shipping. The game is available on there. I found at the time of doing research, I found 50 copies of this game listed. 60 copies of the game that recently sold, so it is out there. But you're paying for it, and so yeah, your range is pretty accurate, Joe. Carling copies of this game sold anywhere from $300 to $306 to $440, on eBay recently. So, nice. Do you remember how much that the retail store was asking for their copy, Doom?
I think it was in the 300s.
Okay, yeah. So, CIB is even more insane. But
I have not seen a CIB of it.
There have been some. There have been some recently sold on eBay and the price is way all over the place.
I was just going to say, did it hit 4 figures?
Yes.
Okay.
There was a beat up copy of the game with just the box menu and the cart that sold for the low price of $863. All the way up to no sealed copies. I'm not sure, surprisingly enough, but all the way up to a mint condition, pristine, everything included, including the ads, Nintendo Power, and the inserts and the boxes and whatever. Try $5,518 is what that's sold for. So, yeah. If a sealed copy ever did pop up, I can only imagine what that would go for.
Yeah. That's something you need to put in a vault if you ever got your hands on that.
I did not check like sealed like water or any other like sealed grade companies for this game, but I'm sure there probably has been copies that have sold at least for 5 figures of this game sealed in the past. But PlayStation version of this game, however, is cheaper, thank God. So if you want that one and show up a working storage system to run it, you definitely can get that copy without breaking the bank. And like I said, the Modern Collection, does have this game. It's a game that's regularly on sale. So I don't know what the regular price of this is. I have Steam up. Let me take Steam up right now. Let me take a quick look to see what this usually goes for. There are sound collections available for some of these games. I did not realize that. $20 is usual. $20 is usual this price for both this this collection and the second collection. So, like I said, I got it for $15. You definitely can snag that for a good price. Probably because of the fact that this is available in a collection. There were no repo copies of this game available on eBay either, so I was surprised. I figured there'd be at least 1 or 2 floating around, but I didn't see any. Maybe I just had the bad luck of searching in time when it wasn't available, but also maybe the fact, like I said, because this is available on a collection, there's no demand for it.
Yeah.
But So anyway, like I said, Joe, my memory is not the best on this. I know this is not the most expensive Super NES game we've covered, but it's up there. It's definitely up there.
No, I feel it was either a shoot 'em up or a it's the M game.
Well, I could just Google it. Let me see. Most
all I have to do
Super
is
NES
look
games.
at our past episodes, and I can tell you, it started with an M. It was like a ninja game. It was super difficult.
I remember that game. Yes, now sure.
And I want to say that was the most expensive one that we've done so far.
Let's see on here. Dracula X is pretty expensive these days too. Do you remember? You maybe think about like Rendering Ranger R2, which never got an official North American release.
Nope, that's not the one. That's very expensive. Hagane, The Final Conflict. Yes, that's the one.
Yeah. That averages about $1,000 to $2,000.
Yeah. There we go.
Number one appears to be the most expensive games are competition cartridges, like no shock.
Right.
But yeah, so I haven't actually heard. I've actually not heard this game. There's a game called Exertainment Mountain Bike Rally / Speed Racer.
That came with a mountain bike attachment.
Oh, that's why.
Yeah. That mountain bike attachment is like the one thing that is impossible to find next to the cart. Good luck on that.
That's why it's so expensive. So
yeah. What's the next one? Because it's got to be like a legit like worldwide release.
Hagane is it? That's it.
Okay. I was right. Okay.
Yeah. That's. Not counting the competition or special cases games. That's the one that got a worldwide release. That's the most expensive.
Okay.
So
and that makes complete sense.
There actually was a. Have you guys ever heard the story? The story like how like Battlezone, like you remember Battlezone, the old arcade tank shooter, which had the 3D vector like graphics.
Yep.
Yeah.
The Army commissioned a version of that to use for training purposes because the game for its time period was so advanced. Well, they did that with Super NES, the Super NES like as well too, apparently.
With a sniper rifle.
Yes. Yep.
Yeah.
Flam 16. So.
Yeah, which again is like, good luck finding both of those pieces that you can use together. You know what I mean?
I actually never heard about this, so this is interesting. We may have to cover. This actually is not a bad idea for a 300 episode, a special, Joe, talking about the really, really obscure and rare games and hardware available
that we can't play.
Yes. Guys, there's some weird crap out here for sure, but anyway, yeah. So
I mean, the mountain bike thing's cool, and I love the fact that it's packaged with not just a mountain bike game, but also Speed Racer.
Yeah,
like of all things, like you have to ride a bike to play Speed Racer. That's fantastic.
But anyway, yes,
I've always loved that. But yeah. the gun one is hilarious because I'm like, you have a super scope. Like you could have just released that game.
But anyway, But yeah, since we're talking about it, I'll just mention like real quick the other Super NES games that commonly sell more money than Mega Man X3 does. We covered this game also Joe, and I've got about this. Aerial Fighters is also very expensive.
Really?
Oh yeah, Aerial Fighters.
Yeah, I played that back in the day.
Yeah, so I already mentioned Render Ranger R2.
Yep.
A favorite of mine, Harvest Moon, is a very expensive game also these days. Dracula X, no shock there.
Yeah, that's
right.
Expensive. Earthbound is also expensive.
Yep.
I used to own that game. I shouldn't have sold all my cards back in the day.
And then X3, and then actually, believe it or not, right below X3, Chrono Trigger.
That I also owned that too.
Yep. So, so very interesting. Yes, a very interesting list here. So, not a bad idea. For our special Joe, we can talk about like expensive games, rare accessories. There's definitely some like weird stuff out there because there's some very weird stuff for sure.
I'm going to put you in charge of trying to find the bicycle.
I never knew about that. It's like I knew the charge was standard. Also, they also had a exercise bicycle available back in the day. The Puffer, which is also pretty rare. But I knew about the keyboard. The musical keyboard that was sold for the system, which is actually pretty good from what I understand, but you can get that one without but at least that one you can get without breaking the bank.
Right.
But anyway, so X3 definitely, unless you're a collector, definitely go the collection route because I don't think any game is worth that much money. But I remember I actually talked about this with Doom a little bit before the podcast when I mentioned the 3DO version of this game that never came out. I had a 3DO for a limited time back about 20 years ago because a few games I wanted to play on the game, specifically stuff like Snatcher. Which is a very, I'm sorry, not 3DO Sega CD, but, the same argument because, but Snatcher was so expensive that I finally just bought, I finally just bought a burned copy of the game to play and then destroyed it when I was done. And it's all I want to do is just play the damn game. I don't want to break the bank, playing it. But, Snatcher's a great game also. It's just a shame that one's been locked away on that system, but. Anyway, so that's X3 for you, everybody. Appreciate you very much listening to the podcast as always, and thank you for being here. Joe, as always, appreciate you being here with me.
Of course.
And Doom, thank you once again for taking time out of your busy schedule to be here with us for this.
Yes, thank you.
No problem.
So, we think we know what we're covering next in the podcast, but because the episode also involves a guest host, and because these things are problematic, I don't want
nothing.
Yeah, I don't want to jinx myself yet by saying that. I will just say that's a friend. I will give a hint that's a very popular and controversial at the same time game. But if that does not fall, so that may be coming to you next time, or Joe and I also have a backup game in mind in case that falls through. But we hopefully be back on a regular schedule. I appreciate everybody's patience. While maybe mostly I was just dealing with some stuff going on here on my end. But you can find us on Facebook. You can also send me an email directly if you want to at the SNESpodcast@yahoo.com with any comments, feedbacks, questions, etc. Joe, where can they reach you at?
You can find me on Twitter at JOESUX30. And then, of course, I have a very public Facebook, Not Safe for Work. Mm-hmm. And I do Twitch every once in a while. I was doing pretty good there for a bit once I got WWE 2K26, but I kind of faded off because I got a bunch of games on sale, and I'm kind of now going back through Left 4 Dead. Not Left 4 Dead, sorry. The Last of Us, there we go. I knew it was a zombie game. Last of Us, so that I can play Last of Us 2. And then, of course, last Friday, I ended up getting Halo. Yeah, I bought Halo for the PS5, which was really weird. But also beat it in 15 hours. So
Yeah, that's...
yeah, I mean, was it worth the $50? It's debatable. It's like my 5th time beating that game all the way through on like 4 different systems. So technically 5 systems if I include my PC. So
yes,
that's one of my comfort games that I can go back to, and the fact that they prettied it up and added some quality of life stuff. Yeah.
I've not played the new version, but the new version for the first Halo was indeed a very good game. But
look, the first Halo was good. When they remade it for the 360, it was good. When they did it for the Master Chief Collection, it was good. And then they did it again here for the PS5 and Xbox Series X, and it's still good. The bones are great. It was really just a graphical upgrade, and I kind of felt like I was an idiot for buying it for $50, but at the same time, like, my buddy was playing it, and I was like, he's really making me want to play it.
You might do some multiplayer mode like in that too later on. So it's like,
but then I gotta pay to play online.
If they're doing that stuff still, oh boy! But
yeah. You gotta have the PlayStation Plus to be able to play online.
Yeah, I had heard about that. That sucks. But
yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah. But it is what it is. Anyways, Doom, how can they find you?
But I was just going to ask you if you have anything that you want to like plug, advertise, etc. So go ahead. Yeah,
so I used to stream on Twitch. I do not anymore, but there's an archive of almost every stream I ever did on YouTube, channel name Khodhum, Khodhum, and my most viewed videos are the series I did where I played Rocket Knight Adventures on the hardest difficulty level without getting hit. So if you like to see someone do a challenge run like that, that's there for your viewing enjoyment.
Don't you have a playthrough of X3 on there?
I have a couple of X3 playthroughs,
Yeah. But, okay. Anything else you want to plug?
I guess I could mention my music quiz. It's been a while since I mentioned that.
Sure.
On Sporkle. Same name there, Khodhum. It's 100 games. You listen to snippets of each game and just try to remember what game they're from. It's a pretty difficult quiz. I think if you can get like 30 of them out of 100, that's a pretty good score. But yeah.
Yeah, I could not do that well, so I definitely agree with you. A lot of them also are like, I know that, a lot of these also are like, I know that darn game, I just can't play stuff right now, but it's because, very good, very good, very challenging. Definitely, everybody should check it out for sure. Anyway, as always, so let's wrap things up. As always, thank you very much for everybody for being here. Appreciate it. We'll catch you again next time soon. Thank you again, Joe. Thank you again, Doom. And take care. Take care, everybody. And see you around later.
Bye.
Nintendo controls 80% of the video market. But no matter how you play the game, or which game you play, things definitely have come a long way since Pac-Man.
Now you're playing with power. Super power.